It was set up in the Virginia colony and then also later into South Carolina. It's called Meritorious Manumission. Meritorious means to earn. Manumission means to release. So a black could earn his release from slavery if he did one of four things, or a combination, elaboration, or sophistication of those four things. One, if he could prove to whites that he could see things through the eyes of a white person, and he'd prove it by one, saving a white person's life; two, saving a white person's property; three, inventing something or improving the profits that he get from picking cotton and corn or tobacco; or four, if he would squeal on and tell on any other black person who was trying to escape from slavery. That was called Meritorious Manumission. We still got blacks in America that's working hard and diligently to get meritorious manumission. They're working hard to make sure that they protect a white person's property. I don't care, and they protect it by any time you come out with an affirmative action program. I have the dubious honor of being the person that wrote that first affirmative action plan for the state of Florida in 1971 that went all over the country, a comprehensive plan. I didn't write the plan for minorities, poor folk, Asians, Hispanics, Arabs, midgets, humpbacks, lesbians. I wrote it for black folk. But immediately the whole frame of reference is the way you keep black folk down is always to loot and water something and make pretend it's for everybody. And that way anything for everybody is for nobody. And so they took that minority program, the affirmative action program, made it a minority program. And said, now I want the affirmative action program to die for that reason. In 1999, I go down to Texas, and a program was written for black folk. I look at the amount of money in state contracts in Texas that year, and white women got 78%. And nobody in our black leadership, in our black overclass, and the black civil rights movement ever said, "Hold a second, how are you going to put white women into a minority, into an affirmative action program set up for black folk when she was right along with the white man?" She co-owned, co-controlled, co-influenced, co-herited, and everything that the white slave owner had, she had it too. She sat in the same house, under the same table, slept in the same bed and raised his kids. How is she entitled to be competitive with black men or black people in the society? But our black leadership didn't say anything. So white women went into the affirmative action program and took it over and dominated it. That's why you go to check Coca-Cola about 3 years ago, Coca-Cola company, almost 66% of all the money on the minority program went to white women. And in Texas, white women got 78%, and Hispanics got 21%, and blacks got 0.9%. Because again, we don't know how to play the game. We keep buying into these myths about people, about these very broad, ambiguous groupings. And all of that stuff started immediately after the Civil War.
Racism is a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
Either you play as a team or you lose by default.
Right.
We have no social cohesiveness in our race. We have no social cohesiveness. We keep trying to play as individuals because whites teach you and engineer you into believing that somehow that individualism is important. Individualism is not important in a race-based society. That if white folks didn't enslave black folks as individuals, enslaved them as a group.
You said that leadership, unlike it was before, we've given our leadership to politicians and different folks who don't even know what they don't even care about us. And somewhere in one of your questions you talk about leadership. What we've done. I'm trying to remember which one it was.
Yeah, well, that's the origination of leadership. See, the first time we ever had any significant black leaders was after they had an evangelical movement that moved through this country in about the late 1700s,
right.
And when the religious movement came across America, all of us black folk expressed an interest in going to church, and they would take whites let black folk go to church with them, ride in the carriage or stay outside, and finally they started saying, "We'll let you sit up in the balcony as long as you're separated from whites." And listen to a religious ceremony because we're going to use the scriptures from the Bible to enslave your Oriens in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so by 1818, they finally came out with things that it's okay for blacks to have religious indoctrination, mm-hmm. and they gave out a catechism which says these are the things that black persons must pledge to do. He has to be hardworking, and again follow those things of 1710. Work hard, respect white folk, and then look for pie in the sky. And so they say, but the only thing about it, we must choose new black leadership. We're going to let black ministers be the lead start in 1818.
Mm-hmm.
And black ministers became the first leaders in America. They stayed pretty effective in that until after the Civil War. And at that point in time, they began to move a little. They allowed. They quasi-freeze black folk. When they quasi-freeze black and allowed some of them to vote, then we got new leadership that came in about 1870. And these blacks now, so the leadership moved from a minister, it moves to black leaders being elected to Congress. But as those blacks got elected to public office in the 1870s, they were put on a code of ethics that says, again, if you come to a position in the public sector, in a public job, whether you're elected or appointed, you cannot do certain things. Again, you cannot come to a public office and express any concern about black folk. 2, that you cannot be able to come in there and talk about groupism. Or 3, you cannot, again, try to hold white people accountable for the enslavement of your people for 360 years. That became a code of ethics for black folks starting in the 1870s. It is still in existence where black folk are seeking meritorious manumission. That's why all these blacks sitting in public office right now will never do anything for black folk. There is no direct connection between putting a black person in a public office and black folk specifically getting benefits. How can a black person sit in a public office and do things specifically for Jews, for Arabs, for Asians, for Hispanics, for women, for midgets, for humpbacks, for transgenders, for people with hernias or hemorrhoids, but won't do anything for black folks? I did a survey back in 1960 where I looked at on black elected officials compared to the social economic discomfort conditions of black folk across America in terms of food stamps, welfare, imprisonment, dysfunctional schools, dysfunctional family, drug abuse, all these kind of things. I use the social indicators to equate the conditions of black folk, because at that time in 1960 you only had three black elected officials of any significance in the country. And so I said, I did that survey and showed that black folk were going into extremely bad conditions. Now, I waited 30 years from 1960 to 1990, and I used the same indicators to see what are the conditions of black folks in 1990. It should be tremendously better, because the number of black elected officials have gone up over 9,000. 9,000. They're going from 3 to over 9,000. That's a 9,000% increase. I said, if there's a 9,000% increase, then hell, that should be, black folks should be floating on air. I said, let me see what the conditions are. I looked at the conditions and ran the same indicators, and not only had black folk not progress, they've gone backwards. They're going backwards because they've still being injured by that code of ethics that was put in place in 1870. And that is that black folk in public office must not do anything for their own people. And that's why there's never been a connection between putting a black person in office and black folk getting benefits, except a few instances I talked about earlier. The Harold Washingtons, the Maynard Jacksons, the Adam Clayton Powell, the Joanne Watsons, and the Dorothy Tillmans. There are a couple more, but that's it. That's it. Most blacks go to public office, the first statement they're going to make is, I'm here to represent all the people. And that's a violation, that is a contradiction of the principle of politics. Politics is based on a very simple premise, Dorothy. It's based on the concept of quid pro quo, something for something. One hand washes the other. If I elect you to public office, you must represent me in a representative nation. This government is functioning on being representative of a certain constituents. So when you get elected to a public office, your first responsibility that you swear an oath to, saying, I hereby promise and swear to protect and serve those who put me in office. And black elected officials never accept that, even though they swear on the Bible that's what they're going to do.